Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be part of a conference that has wellbeing at its centre, and of course heritage, rather than a day that encompasses many other themes. The fact that there's been such a rich diversity of presentations and places I'm sure we're all going to want to come and visit shows how much is underway in the scope for collaboration and future activity. I started late last year as one of the two new co-directors of the Historic Towns and Villages Forum, so I'm presenting some of the work of the forum prior to that time and some next steps. The Historic Towns and Villages Forum has for over 30 years brought together different stakeholders. This includes local authority officers with civic societies, local community groups and other professionals, planning, heritage and others. And as the name indicates, the aim of the forum is to gather people for discussion around topics of conservation of heritage, looking beyond issues of individual buildings and seeing heritage as a major element in delivering sustainable economic development that has well-being at its core. The benefits of well-designed and human-centred environments are understood to be good for us at so many different levels. This includes appreciating and protecting the natural and built historic environment and understanding the interplay between the two. As with many such days, and as just said, we're preaching to the converted on many points. However, we're still at a time when we regularly see developments that don't sit comfortably with the environment around them. This might be a development sitting on the edge of an older settlement, and it creates a division, a sense of not fostering a community, although community may be built, and even give a sense of being in that area or even region. And travelling here today or yesterday, probably some people saw places that made you think of that as well. Two phrases for me that at a recent webinar we had struck a chord, and that was about managing continuity. And this was David McDonald of the IHBC. So we always talk about change, there's change, but continuity as well. And from Penelope Tollett about how we create convivial spaces. For communities trying to steer a path to navigate developments in their area, which doesn't mean opposing any development, but positively engaging with the process. There needs to be sources of support and advice, and the power of example can be a very, very important way of sharing this. So the recent collaborative report that I want to talk about now, and is obviously available online in 3 different forms, will give you a little bit more detail on this. So in September 2022, the summary report came out, and then the full report followed in April last year, entitled Towards Better Balance Between Heritage and Growth. So funded by Historic England and a project with the Alliance of Historic Cathedral Towns and Cities, us as the Historic Towns and Villages Forum, Allies Morrison, urban practitioners and others. The report looks at 12 case studies towns really across England, although we don't work solely in England, but this report does focus on England, and brings together views of civic societies, local planning officers and councils, and makes recommendations for best practice. The 12 towns and cities are really spread across the country. They include Canterbury, Chester, Chichester, Lancaster, Lichfield, Malvern, Oxford, Peterborough, Wakefield, Wells, Winchester and Worcester, so literally a gallop across the country. The case studies were used to inform 40 recommendations and a how-to toolkit. The toolkit presents a local plan review process, highlighting which different issues can be considered, such as transport, density, views and vistas, character and building heights, and how local planning authorities can draw on the enthusiasm, knowledge and experience available in civic society and local volunteers. And I think we heard some fantastic examples this morning, such as the Kirkham examples. And this would help to gather a really sound evidence base. The report works from the premise that it's necessary to challenge developer assumptions, which are not necessarily in the best interest of communities, and look harder at what sustainable urban community might look like, so that the places where people live and work, children grow up, can be spaces that are enjoyable and healthy spaces, enhancing well-being. So the aim is not necessarily to, and often not to, copy past developments, but look carefully at what works using those case study examples, not only in terms of density and layout, but also community spaces, green spaces alongside the existing built environment. Housing needs at the moment are fully recognised, but developers alone are not going to solve the problem in a sustainable way. I think we had some very good discussions before lunch in the Purcell seminar about that. Neighbourhood plans are discussed as one method of providing some crucial stakeholder engagement. Can, of course, take time to develop, but also can be frustrated by processes and constraints imposed by, at a higher status, by local plans of a district. Interestingly, all of the 12 places are ones that have declared a climate emergency. Yet the declaration, given the feedback in the report, is thought not to have translated into action yet. From other research, it's known that younger people, as well as people across age groups, are concerned by climate crisis. And again, thinking about well-being in a different way, as well as well-being today, we know that's a concern for future generations that many have. Some key recommendations, and just to summarise, come from the report and they're aimed at different levels. So for government, this includes points such as promoting the retention and reuse of existing historic buildings to reinforce local character, respond to climate change, and ensure views of local communities are given more weight in the planning process. For example, by actually ensuring understanding the processes are understood and the consultation happens at an early enough stage to be positively shaping decision-making. For Historic England, there was request even about further guidance on top of what's already available on making historic buildings as suitable as possible and requesting for more work on the Heritage Counts initiative. For local authorities to create culture that recognises the economic, social and cultural value of heritage by developing heritage and design expertise, and a fundamental part of local authority planning and development activity, so of course more around training and support. And for civic societies, advice on working with heritage and design officers, ensuring that all sections of the community and those with specific expertise can be listened to and have their voice and have a chance to voice their opinions. So the interviews, this large series of interviews undertaken as part of this research, came up with what they designed to be very practical advice, takes this report into account, and the changes here mentioned are, because it's a very recent report, also taking changes since the pandemic, including more working from home, online ordering, where facilities might be. So we're continuing to consult members around this activity, take strands of the work forward, and as the report, it's just a first step, not the last step, and of course is echoed by much of the work that other people are doing. Now, at this point in time, we are at an interesting time, and I expect many people in this room were listening recently to the Heritage Hustings at the Heritage Alliance Day, and there are many changes, directly or indirectly, that the election might bring. Also, the statistic that conservation capacity in local authority planning teams has halved since 2009 is concerning, and there are aspects of the tax system and proposed reforms to encourage sustainable growth and reuse of heritage buildings that will surely continue to come up and again. There's also the intangible cultural heritage side, and last Saturday at the Heritage Craft Association Day, Lord Parkinson again, who I think is very busy at the moment, was marking with others that step towards the ratification of the 2003 UNESCO Convention on Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage. This facet adds significantly to a sense of place. Even the previous day, I was listening to one of our speakers talking from personal experience about his hometown, where a development could be possible, the lines the development should take from his own personal knowledge, and even the details of why a certain field in a central location would not be suitable. In this case, because there was a long tradition of rearing geese, an unusual element, that they're herded daily along central roads and come back at the end of the day. So the geese field must stay, he explained to us. Yet another field, only had donkeys in this, but on an Anglo-Saxon pattern of boundaries where settlements were to be built, he felt that was one that the community could see developments in. in the future. So central gathering spaces, and again returning to the idea of convivial spaces that encourage connections between people, and a sense of specific would be encouraged. So where do we go from here? To support vibrant communities, the built environment at the level of settlement needs to be understood. Creating and maintaining environments that are distinctive and attractive enhances a sense of well-being at an individual and a community level. Often those living in a location need to be allowed further consultation. We hope this report and the activity surrounding it will encourage exactly that better balance of the title and enhance well-being. Thank you.